In December 2008, former Nasdaq chairman Bernie Madoff admitted to running the largest Ponzi scheme in history.
The FBI arrested him this morning after he told senior employees yesterday that his business was a giant Ponzi scheme.
This is one of the biggest fraud cases ever.
The arrest of Wall Street legend Bernard Madoff has clients panic that their wealth may be gone.
Massive cocaine use and wild parties featuring topless dancers apparently were rampant.
65 billion. Gone. Okay, but what exactly is a Ponzi scheme? A Ponzi scheme takes money from new investors as debt, and the same is then credited to older investors rather than earning from a real investment. Thus, it relies on continuously attracting new investors and money. When that doesn't happen, or too many people cash out simultaneously, the entire system collapses. What made this scheme so much worse than others was Madoff himself. The chairman of Nasdaq, the bane of stock exchange, master of the trade. As I watched the chaos unfold, I kept asking myself, how? How could this have happened? Madoff had a stellar reputation as a wealth manager for exclusive people, the chosen few, so to speak.
I didn't have enough money to go to Bernie Madoff. Everybody said it was $1 million minimum, and you really had to know somebody.
Why were hundreds of millions of dollars from two accountants put in there?
We thought we were the luckiest people in the world.
But I can't help but wonder, no one found this odd. No one suspected anything. Of course they did. If only the SEC had listened.
What I find the most disturbing about the Madoff case is that no one from the SEC has stepped forward to admit personal responsibility.
Harry Markopoulos, a financial analyst at Rampart Investment Management, was asked to replicate Madoff's returns. There was just one problem.
Did you ever think it was real?
No, in 5 minutes I knew. I said, this is totally bogus.
By targeting Madoff, one of the most powerful people on Wall Street, Harry was painting a huge target on his back, one that could even get him killed.
I came back to the States and started carrying a gun every day. I wouldn't get into my vehicle without checking for bombs first.
Easy. Easy peasy. Like a money machine. I always said I never lifted any heavy weights.
This is Michael Bienes, a principal in one of Madoff's feeder funds under SEC investigation, Avellino and Bienes. Simply put, a feeder fund collects investors' money and channels it into a larger investment pool, known as the master fund. This fund handles the actual investments in assets like bonds, equities, or gold. The firm gave Madoff $454 million of investors' money to manage and was later charged a $350,000 fine after the audit.
If a $50 billion Ponzi scheme doesn't make the SEC's priority list, then I want to know who sets their priorities.
Irving Picard, a court-appointed trustee, led the investigation with David Sheehan, a lawyer representing Madoff's victims. While I can't cover every single suspect in a 15-minute video, here are a few you should know about. Bernie's sons, Mark and Andrew Madoff, were the prime suspects of Picard's investigation.
A number of Bernard Madoff's relatives will be sued this week for almost $200 million.
Now, there's debate about this all over the place. Some believe they genuinely didn't know anything. Others, not so much. Honestly, I don't know what to believe.
The New York City Medical Examiner made it official on Sunday.
Bernie's wife, Ruth Madoff, was at the top of the list of suspects.
Did you see nothing, Ruth?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
This, however, wasn't enough to stop Picard.
Bankruptcy trustee handling Bernie Madoff's estate is suing the swindler's wife for close to $45 million.
Fairfield was one of the largest feeder funds that gave Madoff unlimited access to their portfolio.
The trustee liquidating Bernard Madoff's business says he is in settlement talks with 3 Fairfield Greenwich Group hedge funds.
It's easy to look at this list of lawsuits and think these people suffered the most with billions in losses. However, the real victims are the ones who didn't have billions to lose. The victim impact statements, released in June 2009, paint the real picture. One that doesn't consist of lavish real estate purchases and fancy dinners, but of college savings, medical bills, and death. What happened to them? Were they ever compensated? And more importantly, how did this end?
And we are expected to go lower right now off the 252-point decline that we have, of course.
The 2008 financial crisis was a reset for the economy. People couldn't repay debt, banks didn't recover loans, companies were going bankrupt. In other words, we were in a recession. As the markets continued to worsen, more and more people sold their shares, booking their losses. Ultimately, Madoff couldn't keep up with the demand and realized it was the end. Ironically enough, his very own sons called the FBI and had him arrested.
We knew that we couldn't live with this information.
On March 10, 2009, Madoff was charged with securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, false statements, and more. A total of 11 charges.
How much real money do you think went into the whole scheme?
I'd say about 36 billion, and about 18 of it went out.
In reality, the Ponzi scheme was never 65 billion, as that figure included fake profits. Another thing I want to mention is this discrepancy between the 50 billion figure in some headlines versus the 65 billion in the rest. The 50 billion figure was given by Madoff soon after his arrest, but later the authorities estimated the fraud to be 65 billion instead, none of which were exactly true. Then, on June 29, 2009,
Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 felony counts of securities fraud and perjury in a Ponzi scheme that robbed.
While it seemed like there was no hope for recovery, that wasn't the case. Madoff Recovery Initiative, a foundation led by Irving Pekar and David Sheehan, has recovered $14.76 billion as of May 2025. Nothing short of extraordinary. Despite multiple investigations, many questions remain unanswered to this day. What if the 2008 crisis never happened? How much money was really lost? Did Madoff have an inside man? Was the family aware of the fraud? With Madoff's death in 2021, these questions will likely never be answered. If anything, I hope this video acts as a reminder to stay vigilant and question everything. Because if it feels too good to be true, it probably is. And it's only a matter of time until it all comes crashing down.